Well, it's that time of the week again. Let's see what the game industry is up to. Starting off, we have Elder Scrolls in the news. With the remaster of Oblivion leaking, it allegedly will add blocking inspired by Souls-like games, the sneak icon being highlighted, modified stamina system, HUD changes, hit reactions, and archery being overhauled according to the leak. This was also originally leaked by Virtuous Games, thanks to them not configuring their website properly, but was restricted for public view after a few hours. Reddit being Reddit managed to save some of the images with people in the comments hoping it's real. There are more screenshots floating around on Twitter, with one of them showing a deluxe edition of the game, classic Bethesda making a deluxe edition of a re-release, and adding horse armor in the game. Now the screenshots, one mad lad asked probably the most important question: why did they add the piss filter? Now, this is not the first time it got leaked. As another Redditor pointed out, there was a post on r/Elder Scrolls around 2 years ago that Virtuous Games are working on an Oblivion remake of their project Altar. Looking at it from the perspective of both the first and the second leak, it's almost certain that Oblivion is being remastered. I mean, look at Skyrim. How many re-releases has it had at this point? But I digress. Bethesda has their work cut out, as they have to compete with Skyblivion, mod that aims to remake Cyrodiil? I don't know how you pronounce this, along with all of its quests, locations, characters into Skyrim. Only time will tell who did a better job. Speaking of time, Blizzard is doing something in the StarCraft franchise. Oh wait, it's a miniature game set to release in 2016. Now, this is all Google translated, so make of that what you will, but according to a Korean article, NCSoft, Nexon, Netmarble, and Krafton are currently competing to acquire the StarCraft IP in order to make a new game, with some of them even sending their own presentations to Blizzard to gain a competitive advantage. Neither of the companies competing have any experience in RTS games. NCSoft mostly worked on MMOs, Lineage series, Guild Wars series, Throne and Liberty, Aeon, you get the point. Nexon has MapleStory, Dungeon Fighter, the first Berserker Kazan, the finals. At least they're a bit more diverse with RPGs, MMOs, and FPS. Netmarble only has mobile releases up until recently, with Game of Thrones, King's Road, and Seven Deadly Sins Origins being their attempts at moving out of the mobile market. And lastly, Krafton, the makers of PUBG, Inzoi, and the Callisto Protocol, being horror, shooter, and life simulators. Out of the four companies, Nexon offered a unique way to utilize the StarCraft IP, but did not elaborate further. Netmarble is planning on combining the StarCraft IP and mobile platforms with alleged in-depth gaming at the same time. RTS on a mobile? Yeah, that's not gonna end well. Krafton is planning on its existing studios to make a new game, but officially said nothing has been confirmed. With Blizzard allegedly looking for game companies that can at least handle the IP, they will need to look for someone at least competent in making games. Ideally, also someone who is willing to listen to fans of the genre. If they're not willing to listen to the fans, this will go nowhere. Or, I mean, Blizzard can try making something in the StarCraft IP, but that's wishful thinking at this point. Remember what happened to StarCraft Ghosts? Moving on, South of Midnight numbers aren't looking all that great. 2 weeks after the release, with a peak of 1,400 players on Steam and an owner estimation of 51,000 by PlayTracker, it doesn't look good for this mediocre game. Now, let's see what the studios say down the road, as we don't have costs of development, and just being on Game Pass is not a guaranteed success. And just like South of Midnight's numbers, Lost Records, Bloom and Rage is following the same path. Well, at least it has close to 3,000 all-time peak player count and an estimate of 91,000 players on PlayTracker, considering the game also is on Game Pass and it is chaptered release. This also does not bode well for the game. I mean, this also has no official data about what it costs, not that I can find at least, so, you know, make of the numbers what you will. Now, let's move on to something a bit more successful then. Schedule 1. And the gamer claiming it's under fire because of the achievement in the dealer, where you need to pickpocket the product you just sold someone. This originally started on Twitter by the user Crow, calling the achievement incredibly racist. In the tweet, there are multiple people who ratioed the guy with another Twitter user, understanding that the achievement is an age joke. I mean, on one hand, this is classic Twitter moment right here. On the other, people really need to learn what a joke is at this point. But I digress. Not to be left out, and Digi Horror Squads made a tweet about this achievement too, calling it racist, saying it has ties to harmful stereotypes, and with how things go, one of the replies to them was, once again, wokies ruin a game that was fine because they're racist, and the only race they can allow to be mocked or derided is whites. Oh boy, we have idiots on the internet being offended by everything under the sun again. Some people need to touch grass. Alright, let's have a look at Marathon now. Bungie's upcoming extraction shooter and the public perception around it. Spoiler, it's not good! To top it off, ex-Concord dev came out on Reddit to talk about the game and wanting to give insight into the whole game because he saw it being called Concord 2.0. Instead, he gave us a sob story about his life. That's not how you defend games, my friend. Said Dev also mentioned that Concord failed to inspire people and the message was heard loud and clear, claiming it was gut-wrenching to see the project fail and become a laughingstock. He even mentioned he is not asking for pity or sympathy because, in his words, this is the name of the game, you win or lose. He even mentioned the margin of success is very thin and they took the chance and lost. He mentioned that the people working on these projects are still human and work very hard. Oh wait, I thought they were Martians. The dev also mentioned seeing the faces of Bungie gave him hope and excitement for the game. Then, finishing the post with a TLDR that summarized to, I tried, please give sympathy to Concord and his game. Ironically, the post is also locked and can't be replied to any further, with few posts that call him out are either downvoted or hidden among people who blindly listen to everything he said. Things are so bad that PC Gamer picked up on this and mentioned how spectacular of a failure Concord was, with it being pulled less than 2 weeks after being published. They also showed a tweet from the game's official Twitter account that stated it will be a premium game. If that doesn't smell like Concord, I don't know what will, considering the game's director told PC Gamer that there won't be a proximity chat because they want to make sure they're crafting a safe environment for players. The characters looking like someone threw Legos they bought from Wish in a washing machine and imported whatever came out together. This does not look good. I mean, let's be real for a minute here. Hot characters help sell a game. Stellar Blade, Nier series, I don't know, almost as if there's a pattern. And no matter how you look at it, sex sells. Now, if only we didn't have articles like the one fandom Pulse decided to spew out after the man, the myth, the legendary Roach King himself, Asmongold, said that games should make sure all female characters are hot, and the article that mentioned his statement about this called it a liberal trap, even mentioning that CSGO or CS2 didn't have female characters until 2019 with the introduction of Agent Ava, and mentioning other popular games. Yeah, let me stop you right there. Counter-Strike didn't need female characters as it was a good series. I grew up on it for crying out loud. And most importantly, it has an active community. When one of the Counter-Strike series was, well, people weren't happy with it, they moved on to a previous version. What are we talking about here? What are we comparing CSGO/CS2 to Marathon? For crying out loud. This article also mentions that women do not belong in shooter games simply because, and I quote, "we should not be normalizing women in frontline combat roles." And quoting Robert Hurt's statement on top of all that. Oh, give me a break. These people have no idea what they're talking about. Schrodinger's feminist right here. Women need to be empowered and victims both at the same time. They only switch states to whatever benefits them the most. Stop it all off this, nightmare of an article. Marathon Intel on Twitter also mentioned this, trying to do a gotcha moment. However, later on he mentioned that it also applies to male characters too. Another person also tried to use the Roach incident to paint him in a bad light. I mean, that somehow changes the fact that Asmongold was right here. No matter how you look at it, sex sells! And the last nail in the coffin on top of all of this is a person replying to Marathon Intel's tweet about this, posting images from failed modern audience games with what happened to their studios. I mean, these people have lost all connection with reality at this point. And I'm mainly disappointed. Now, back to everyone's favorite hobo, Ubisoft. Inside Gamer learned that their recent attempt at making a game is a battle royale inspired by Apex Legends, under the project name Scout. They claim the game has been in development for a couple of years with features very similar to Apex Legends, with a spin on the game's characters, with one of their sources mentioning the goal is to capitalize on the player count of Apex, with Ubisoft higher-ups thinking there is room for another hero battle royale. Now, if only this will boost the stock values over on Ubisoft's side. But let's be real, the only higher-ups thinking that are on Ubisoft's side. The ones who actually are gonna bear the brunt of this, the shareholders, aren't even gonna think of that. They're gonna be looking at the whole situation with Shadows and Ubisoft making their own entity, moving Assassin's Creed over to that. But I digress. Now, speaking of repeating oneself, it's that time again. Sony announced another version of The Last of Us. This is, the 6th version of the game? This time for PlayStation 5. Hello, Bethesda, is that you? Are you cosplaying as Sony right now? Hello, Bethesda, quit doing that. I mean, yeah, at this point, Sony either needs to invest in someone with development skills for this franchise, and a good writer too, most likely. Now, moving on to something a bit more entertaining, Marvel Rivals is in the news cycle this week with its release of Season 2. And of course, people being angry at it on Twitter, journalists reporting on it, trying to put a spin, all because male and female characters alike had their gluteus maximus bumped up a bit. But none of these journalists or people on Twitter can deny the game's popularity. I mean, it's so popular that it got Marvel to release a new issue of their swimsuit special for the first time in 30 years. On top of that, it's with characters from the game. Even journalists are stumped by this and call it completely out of the question. Yeah, delusional people calling this out of the question. They also reminded people that in the early 90s, this used to be an annual parody of Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue, with the comic delivering what was promised on the cover. Hey, we need to bring this shit back. Marvel's gonna make a killing, and they do need it now. There are even confirmed artists that will be working on this blessed comic. The confirmed artists are Nick Klein, Margaret Sovich, and Luciano Vecchio. May their work bless our eyes. Alright, moving on from the greats, we also have Paimon's VA that's back at it again, this time on Blue Sky. To no one's surprise, the VA started using anti-union or alt-right as a defense mechanism for everything she doesn't agree with, because that certainly helps you prove your point. Now, to prove the insanity at play, she linked another person's opinion in a deleted post with another person's pointing out they are not alt-right and asked Karina to ask questions on their opinions instead of labeling them from the get-go. I mean, that's what any sane person should do, really. Ask questions, not slap, "Oh no, you're an ist or a phobe," and be done with it. And if this wasn't mad enough, Karina replied with toddler level language that I do not have the willpower to decrypt, really. And another tweet where she stated, in the US, make way more money and healthcare. And yeah, I didn't butcher the text. This is exactly what was said. I mean, at this point, you can be the judge of what's going on here. Now, let's see what Destructoid, Namerisue, Dot Esports, and everything under the gamers group is doing. Apparently, they're struggling because of Google's search algorithms impacting the group. Sure, it has nothing to do with the slop they've been putting out, but hey, it's the algorithm. Believe it. Both current and former employees of the gamers told Aftermath that it's only gonna get worse, as the user base in their Slack has approximately 320 workers registered on the company's account in late 2024, according to a former employee. And that number went down to 260. Those that remain are mostly freelancers who are kept in the dark about the workplace changes, receive no notification or announcement from the company, but are also contracted to sites that don't appear to have operating budgets in the future. The Aftermath reached out for a comment about this, but the company didn't respond. I'd be surprised if they did, really. Now, let's wrap this whole thing up with the comeback story of the century. Or at least the last 10 years. Alright, let's be real, the last 5 years. Lords of the Fallen released its 2.0 update, fixing the game. The game allowed people to have full shared progress co-op, meaning you can invite another person to join them through the whole game. As long as both of you have similar progress, and it has crossplay. You can even invite people who don't have a game to join you on a co-op adventure with progress and loot saved between sessions. They improved the combat mechanics, aka weapon responsiveness, better lock-on, and smoother animation. The feedback for combat audio is improved and movement is refined. Lost players can use LAMP guides to find the next vestige, and they overhauled the character creator. They also added a dedicated jump button with UI having clearer menus that smoothly transition. And finally, they revamped the tutorial and guidebook to make new player experience much better. Now that's how things are done. You listen to your feedback from the community and start improving your game. It still has a long way to go, as the co-op feature could use improvements, but compared to what it was when released, the community agrees that there's a night and day difference. The game has a 67% discount until the 1st of May to celebrate its 2.0 update, and looking at the game, it's a lot better than it was at launch for sure. Well, that's it for this week. You know how things go. Like, subscribe, comment, or don't. Who am I to judge?